Hi, my name is Timothytrespas, and I'm a human being who has found himself the object of targeting, been infected with morgellons, gang stalked, voice to skull, and anyway, let's see if I can get this out in a short, cohesive fashion, because I'm really experiencing a lot of anxiety and weakness and dizziness and fear and terror and confusion. So, Petra and I went to court with our landlady who wanted to evict us. Because of some procedural things, it is possible I may have gotten the judge to dismiss the case. However, in the interest of peace and not making this woman more angry and, giving her her needs, I know we've been difficult tenants. Petra is difficult, I'm difficult, but so we agreed instead to a stipulation agreement, and because of some denial of services, we were granted 1 month rent for free in July, and we've been granted 3 months to move out by October 31st if we pay the rent by the 10th, and a couple other things in the stipulation. So we agreed to this, and that's... No, thank you. Please. Thank you. Have a good night. So, that's the long story short. We've committed to this. We've spoken with Adult Protective Services. We put that in the stipulation that they had to be notified before we were evicted, before the marshals comes and whatever. And there's always the possibility of a order to show cause to get a little more time, but I'm hoping that that won't be necessary. Now, that's the first issue. The next issue is, I don't know if I'm making the right decision or not, but for various reasons, needing to change my environment, needing to change the mental status and the overstimulation of the people and the place and the sounds and the woman and Petra and me, and the fear of simply moving to somewhere else and spending all this money for a truck or van and people to help us move, and just being thrown out again, and so I'm planning to get rid of as much stuff, as many things that I own as I can. I have many things that I've collected that I probably don't need. Many of them aren't worth much at all, and I want to pare down my life to the most essential things, the things I need for survival, the things I need for pleasure and for work, and it's quite a lot of stuff you need to just get through life. So I really want to try to pare down my stuff, because I have way more than I could carry, way more than I could move, way more than I could pack, and so we're going to try to do that and throw a lot of stuff away and get a storage locker and somehow come up with the money to pay somebody to help us move what we can in there. I want to keep basically just the things that we want to move with us when we finally do get supportive housing. I've applied for supportive housing through the Center for Urban Community Services for MICA patients and people with mental health disabilities, challenges like myself and Petra. I've gotten the diagnoses from the doctors: delusional disorder, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, possible schizoaffective disorder, possible delusional parasitosis, post-traumatic stress disorder, anxiety disorder, and whatever else. And managed to get my disability, so I'm getting some small payments for disability, and the diagnosis and the psychosocial documents, the medical documentation, and the program documentation. I've gathered everything that I need together and delivered it to the people for the application, which is in their hands to process. And I've been told by many people that it can take a year or so, and that sometimes you have to resubmit the documents because the application takes so long, and etc., etc. But this place is, the place where all the other agencies go. I've spoken to several different agencies trying to get additional support, and it's anyway. So I got this idea in my head. Well, we could maybe get a camper and live in the camper, but I don't have a driver's license, and reading all about people who live in campers, it's kind of a problem because it's really not that legal unless you're in a camper place, whatever they call them, and parking something that's 2 car lengths long is difficult, and a Petra is not a very stealth person, and I can just imagine the screaming and the arguing and the banging and the camper moving around all the time, and we're trying to be quiet, and everyone's go, "Who is it?" And watched a bunch of videos about people who live in campers, and some very intelligent people. And one guy, he said the police basically knock on his door every 2 weeks, and he has to go through this routine with them and move the thing and whatever and blah blah blah, and not admit to living in it, and it's his recreational vehicle or whatever, all the things you have to do in order to look good, and I'm not, I don't look clean, I don't look healthy, I don't look, so I started thinking about this. Well, what can I do? I could get a camper and pay somebody to move it for me, and pay somebody to put it in a lot, if maybe I could, and on and on and on, and it just didn't seem like it was gonna work. And then I came upon the idea of a boat. People live on their boats all over the world. Poor people live in boats in many countries, and people live in their boats here in the United States. And so I started looking at sailboats and motorboats, and live aboard, and how to sail, and how to check out a boat, and how they work, and just navigation and law and registration. And it seems to be the only motor vehicle in the state of New York that I, as an over 18-year-old, don't need a license for, don't need a certificate of boater safety, although I've begun taking one of those courses online. Just need to transfer the registration, pay the registration fee and any sales tax or whatever. It's the registration fee, I think, is like anywhere from 50 to $100 or something, depending on the size of the ship, the boat, the vessel, whatever. And insurance, basic insurance, like $200 something, and the full insurance is a little over $1,000. And so looking at all these things and looking at all the places, and so then the problem is, well, we could get a boat, we could live in a boat, but how are we going to get to shore every day to get to our program? Wow, the hoops to jump through. So I started looking at the maps and putting everything in, mapping everything out, and where's these places we have to go every day, and is there somewhere we could put a boat that's close enough to these places we could actually consider. And I found a couple of places where it's possible you could pay probably more a boat, and somewhere you could probably pay a slip fee. If it's not too much money, they can be very expensive in some marinas here in the city. And then I found a place where there's a small community of people that appear to be living with their boats tied up somewhere where it's a public land, where the road ends at the water, and so I said, is this real? And I went down there and I looked, because I used to live in that neighborhood, and I've been there many times, but there weren't boats there all those years ago, or if there were, I didn't notice because it wasn't on my mind. And so I went down there and I looked at it, and it's just, so I spoke to someone. I managed to speak to someone. There weren't many people around, but I was surprised to hear that his friend had been there for 8 years without any problems, and some people had been there longer. He'd been there for quite some time. He's writing his book, and just different stories and all the stuff, and looking at how it's arranged. And it's a place away from the public, and there's train yards and fresh direct truck yards, and it's like, so maybe that can work. So I found a few places where we might actually be able to make a stand. And so now I'm learning about all the requirements, safety requirements, and the required things, and make sure I have everything aboard and all this stuff. So then, looking at boats. Boats are expensive. They're not cheap. They're, so I was amazed to find that there are people who are actually giving away boats or selling them at very, very low prices, because either somebody died, they don't want it anymore, they can't afford it, they can't afford the slip, they don't want, whatever, the boat needs too many repairs, da 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 da. So I've been looking at a lot of boats, and I've actually seen a few, gotten on them and talked to people, and so there's one that we're looking at tomorrow, hopefully, if everything works out. We're going to take a train trip up there and meet with the man and have a look and see if it's doable. It's taking responsibility for your own survival. You're basically like camping away from the land. You don't have electricity from a plug. You don't have water from a tap, although the boat has a fresh water tank and a sink. It needs a water pump replacement, but it doesn't have a toilet yet. It needs a porta potty, and has battery, DC power, and lights and stuff, but it needs solar panels and a solar charger. And I have a generator, I have some inverters, so a basic setup can be done for not too much. 100-watt panel is like $100 or less if you get it used, and a basic starting thing, you can charge your batteries at least, and go from there. I watched this guy in his van. He had a 600 or 800-watt solar system that he built over a course of several months, just adding panel after panel, and got a charge controller that could handle the 40, 60 amps, and kept getting new batteries or used batteries or whatever he did, and built up a battery bank. And basically, once you have enough solar panels and have enough charge controller and enough batteries to hold it, you can basically charge your batteries and run your appliances. He had a big screen TV, a couple of computers, a laptop, Xbox, lights, a refrigerator, fans, just his microwave, a cooktop thing, a juice maker, all this stuff. He didn't run it all at once, and he's, you're very careful about the things you use and how much power they use, but that's a whole nother story for another time. I'm for the first time in forever, despite all these bad things, the Lord has granted us the possibility of this way of living, and it's a radical change from what I'm used to, and it's going to require all of my time and energy and effort and consciousness in order to affect this. And although I know this may be too much for me, at the same time I think it may be just what I need, because I spent so much time just idling, learning new stuff, trying to find things to entertain myself that have some positive value. And it's great and all, but I just feel like somehow I have to rescue Petra from this, and myself from this. I don't know if it's even possible, but so we're gonna see. And maybe I'm just crazy, maybe the whole thing is stupid, but then again, there are people who are doing exactly what I'm thinking about and are successful. So who knows, you know, I expect the worst, I plan for the best, or I plan for the best, I expect the worst, whatever it is you're supposed to do. I pray, 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 and hope, and just maybe it'll work out in some way that works long enough until we can get this other housing, and if not, then, you know, there's always other options, I guess. So that's my story, and you know, we're going to need all the help we can get, all the support, all the ideas. I want to thank the few people who have been able to donate to us. There's been a few people that have been very kind and generous, and words cannot explain how it touches my heart to have other people reach out when I'm in such desperation, and I thank you. I only hope I can be as valuable in some way to people. Thank you. I'll try to keep everyone abreast and apprised of everything. I've been so quiet recently because, you know, the torture is difficult, the physical problems are difficult, the health declines, and the mental and spiritual challenges are, you know, my father, he has dementia now, serious. He's in the nursing home, and he probably won't be coming home. It's, you know, I don't even know what to think, what to say. My mother is doing the best she can. There's no way she could care for him, so thank God at least there's a place. He's in a nursing home, a rehab home, and I guess his insurance will, I don't know. My parents are like $60,000 in debt, and I had no idea, and my sister lives near them, and she's willing to, you know, help take over the bills for my mother, the paying of the bills, and you know, the managing of the day-to-day stuff, and help out as much as she can. And I'm not around, I can't really visit yet. They live on Cape Cod in Yarmouth Port, so I guess someone who had a boat, a sailboat, could actually sail along the Atlantic coast from here to there, and I haven't plotted it out on the chart or figured out how many nautical miles or how long it should take depending on the weather. I'm new to this, but I'll learn. Life is difficult, and I haven't given up yet. Sometimes I'm very close, and I don't know, we'll see where this journey takes us. I'm terrified, but I'm terrified all the time anyway, so I'm going to do the best I can, and I thank you for your prayers and your love and your support. I know you're all out there struggling too. It's just, I don't know. Here we are. I'm going to thank you all for watching, and have a good night. Good night.